Today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about stylized rendering. We're going to talk about photoreal rendering. I need to make sure that people hear me, so I want to make sure that all, as usual, microphone levels are good. Get back to my chat window really quick. Okay, here we go. So as usual, mention in the chat, Twitch chat, that you can hear me and you can see me, and I gotta try to make this quick because it's been a little bit too long in critique. Okay, good. You are there. Cool. All right, so stylized rendering, more stylized rendering. Let's have some fun with this. So any way that you can make a stylized render and you're happy with it, if it's your style, it's cool, then that's all I really want. So let's see if we can make some cool stuff. First, I'll import in. You know what? Let's use one of those people like we did last time because I feel like that's built into Maya. It's kind of fun. So we go to the content browser. This is under, of course, modeling, generate content browser. We go to modeling and let's pick another person. We did Richard last time, but I'm kind of bored of Richard. Maybe Sean here. He's standing up. Or Sophia. I don't care. Just as long as we have some kind of interesting model for the stylization. All right. And yeah, we could have a cyclorama or not. That's kind of up to you as well. Really, the cyclorama is useful for shadows. Now, excuse me, this should come with a texture if you hit the 6 button. At least it's supposed to. Oh, there it goes. It just took a second to pop in. So this is definitely textured. So we kind of have the option of using the material that it already comes with, or making our own, or doing something more stylized without using the color texture. All right. So we have any one of these materials. If I right click on it and I say graph network, this should show me kind of what this shader is doing here. I don't want to throw these away just yet. I just want to make something new and different. I can always put this back on. So for lighting, I'm going to be really cheesy right now and just use a white sky dome just to start with, just so it has there's some light on here. We can move on to something a little bit different later. But what I've already gone over just for review is in the rendering module here, we can go to our tune drop down and we can assign a fill and an outline, right? And this is a good way to sort of create stuff from scratch. So if you wanted to say brightness 3-tone, and now this is all kind of red, but I could change these to whatever colors I wanted. If I want it to be blue, that's easy enough. And light blue. And when I go light blue, it's maybe something like this. And then this could be white, maybe. But the point is you have complete control over this, right? Even if you wanted this, instead of white, even be lighter blue, you could do that too. And don't forget, you can use this color picker anywhere. So it can literally be anywhere, even on a browser or anything at all. So, color picker goes anywhere, which is nice. All right, let's get this a little closer towards white. I usually go diagonal. But now I have like kind of 3-tone blue, gray kind of thing going on. All right. So let's see. The software renderer should work fine with this. I was having some problems with my renderer earlier, but let's hope that it will launch at this point. So as long as you render against a white background, then you can use multiply in Photoshop or your compositor of choice to then multiply the darker pixels against something like canvas or paper or whatnot. Really struggling with my renderer today. And that's not good, because I still have another class after this one. All right, well, that's thinking. Hopefully I'll see a render soon. I'm going to say old canvas, right? And then go for something, for print size, of course, I'd want to go for something really, really large in this case. Of course, whatever you do, please avoid your watermarks, right? So that's really important. Come on. I don't know. I'm getting this horrible color, this horrible spinning wheel, which on a Mac I like to joke is the spinning color wheel of death, but I'm beginning to think that it's not that different on a PC. So if you have Photoshop open and ready to go, great. Of course, you can go to photopea.com. That's photopea.com. If you don't have Photoshop, convenient. Photopea.com will do basically the same thing. And then we can paste this in. Now, when you make a new document, it should take the size of whatever's in your clipboard. It's a little strange, so I'll try that again. Control N, it says clipboard, and then paste. There we go. So now my canvas is here. But now I just need to generate this outline. And whether or not you generate this outline in Maya or you generate this outline in Zbrush, you know, I don't care. I was kind of going over Zbrush right before I started this Twitch demo. It doesn't really matter to me how you render this, as long as you have some kind of outline render. That's really the most important part, or toon shaded render. And it's just not happy with this render. Really frustrating. All right. Let's do this. Let's give it an outline. So under Assign Outline, add new toon outline. Now we have line color here under profile line, crease line, and border line. They all have their own color. So make sure that's black. And then we have line width here as well. So play with your line width to make sure that we at least can see the outlines. Don't go too nuts with the line width because it will obscure your detail. If the line width is too high, you're gonna stop getting all the detail you want. But this looks pretty good. Maybe I will opt for Arnold. I just want to see something. Okay, I'm getting something out of Arnold here. But I was really hoping that my old renderer, oh, see, there's a rendering percentage bar down here. Just got me a little worried. It's like stuck rendering the old renderer or something. I don't know. That's not good when you see a percentage bar in Maya. No. No, Arnold. I really would prefer the software renderer right now. I just can't get the render window open. Oh boy. Fun. All right. Tell you what. I'm going to go back to this outline render that I created here. And I want to emphasize, it doesn't really matter where you make your render. You can make your render in Blender. You can make your render in ZBrush. You can make your render in Maya. I don't care, as long as you have kind of a black and white outline render that you can composite. Here, if we want a white background, by the way, we can go to Document. I'm sorry. We can go to, Document Back. See, this is my background color. And then just make that white. This is again under Document. There's also this Range slider and Center. Zero all these guys out. Just try to get a perfectly white background would be nice. All right. And then again, hit Shift R. Okay. I was hitting the comma button for my lightbox, and then that was just going to allow me to get one of these other presets, which I feel like is actually a bit faster than Maya's approach. But again, whatever gets you through the day. I want to mention that what I'm doing right now in the lightbox right, is the same thing that if I was in Maya and I went to the content browser, or if I go to get tune example. So I could say get tune example and use one of these sort of tune presets like calligraphy lines, or if I was down here in Paint Effects, of course we have different kinds of tune lines under my tune menu. So if I wanted my stroke to be something different, like this doodle or this oil paint or this marker scribble, we can apply this to the outline by selecting the outline and like make sure that the outline is selected. You see it turns green. Double click, I guess marker scribble in this case, but wait, it's not actually applied yet. You actually have to click assign paint effects brush to tune lines. And so now once you've done that, then we should see this render. Although at this point I'm really struggling. Apparently Arnold wants to render, but not my software renderer. If I'm going to use Arnold to render paint effects, don't forget we have convert tune to polygons, or if you want to think of it as converting your paint effects to polygons, it's the same thing. That's up here under modify, convert paint effects to polygons. Either way, if they're polygons, then of course Arnold will render them. If they're not, then the software renderer should work fine. Okay, but I'm kind of like messing around here, just getting multiple renders out of Zbrush. But whether you get the renders out of Zbrush or whether you get the renders out of Maya software renderer or even Arnold, I don't really care. So because I'm fighting with my renderer, I'm going to take this from Zbrush right now. And I'll open all the ones that I've created just for fun. Yeah, because for time purposes, I don't want to fight too much with relaunching Maya again and trying to get the software renderer to work. But I've covered this in previous demos. So if you go back to the last two demos, you know, you can kind of see how the software renderer might work with Maya. But again, I don't really care if you use Arnold, the software renderer, or even in this case, ZBrush. It's really up to you. So let's tear off a few of these, figure out what I want to composite. And I'm just sort of tearing off these renders. Now do note that some of these don't have a white background. So if it doesn't have a white background, it might not composite the way that I want. So let's start with the ones that kind of have the white background. So I'll take this guy, holding down Shift, and I'll drag it over. Don't worry that it's not quite the right size yet. I'm not going to worry about that yet because look, if I hold down Shift and drag this guy over too, and I hold down Shift when I do it, it's going to pop into place in the center. So that's actually what I want. I want them all lined up, right? So I'll go to the dot matrix one. I'll drag it, hold down Shift, release. I know it's not taking up the whole bit of canvas, but let's not worry about that yet. Not yet anyway. We'll eventually worry about it, but not right now. Yeah, I apologize about the Maya software renderer being broken because it shouldn't be. I was really trying to get this render out of Maya, but it's like my render window is just busted for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't have time to, well, here's the Arnold one, but I really want the software renderer because for cell shading and tune shading, really the software renderer is preferred. But anyway, let me go back to, however you get your line work is your call, but I would suggest the Maya software renderer if you're going to be using Maya. All right, let's talk about this stuff though really quick. We'll pretend I made this in Maya for right now. And I'm going to turn off the layers until I get like to the first one here, right? If it's not black and white, of course, Control-Shift-U will make it black and white. And then Control-L for levels is going to allow me to crush my levels or increase my contrast. I prefer using levels personally. Now I've got a really nice line work render here. And of course, I would switch the blending mode to multiply. And then immediately it kind of looks like I've drawn this onto the canvas. Now, you're maybe like me right now and kind of wondering, what the hell, man, the scale looks just like bad. And I'm like, that's okay. If you shift click all the layers in Photoshop, and you could group these together, by the way, just like in Maya, hit Control G for group. Everything's grouped together. So if this is going to be my line work, then by it being grouped together, I can just scale the whole group, right? As opposed to one thing. Now, the visibility does need to be on here, so just make sure they're all visible. And I mean, you should be able to scale the whole thing and transform it, show transform controls, and get everything, right? So hold down Alt, actually. Now it's covering everything. Let's go back to the one I was working on. So now I've got the right scale. I just wanted to scale them all up at the same time. All right, so let's play with this a little bit more, right? If I want this to be eaten away, then I want to get a layer mask so it doesn't look quite so perfect. So I'll take the original canvas, I'll duplicate it, I'll hit Control-Shift-U, which is just like desaturate, make black and white. We could just use this as a layer mask the way it is. I personally like to adjust my levels at this point and kind of just make it pop a little bit more. Like that. And really just kind of crunch my levels together. It kind of depends on how much you want to eat away at it. But let's try that. I'll copy this by hitting Control A for select all, Control C for copy. Then I'll go into the layer that I want to use for the layer mask. I'll make a new layer mask, and if I hold down Alt, that takes me into the layer mask. I can hit Control-Shift-V for paste. Now, you should see, if I turn off the one underneath it, you should see now that it's been kind of eaten away a little bit. Like the canvas is kind of eating away at the line work. And if you really want this to be more extreme, whoops, let's turn off the white background. If you really want this effect to be more extreme, then you can take that layer mask, select it, and again continue to crush the levels. And you should see a more extreme version of that. By the way, another option is maybe even inverting this too. So if you invert, see, that's the difference, right? So this might indicate, well, I think you've gone a little too far. You've rubbed away the drawing a little too much. So you can see how that works. So because this actually feels closer to me, to what I want, I'll hit the undo button because I think I went a little too far with those levels, right? So now I'll hit Control I. Go back to my levels. A little too aggressive with this. So, you know, play around with what works for you. Meaning that, let's take this guy and invert it. Control A, Control C. Go back to my layer mask, Control-Shift-V for paste, right? And again, see how this looks. So I want more black in here, don't I, right? So we could try and adjust the levels to create more black. And as I create more black, you can see it starts to come in more. Another thing you could do, other than doing it this way, is you could just paint it in with a brush and then use like a fancy dry media brush. Chunky charcoal, right? And then using black, because black is going to bring it in more. So then over here, hit the D button. Now it's a black brush, and I can actually paint. Whoop, make sure that you're on the layer mask when you do this, by the way. So select the layer mask, and then I can paint, see, this back in. And maybe you don't want it quite this dark. Right? So hit the 2 button or the 3 button, 3 for 30% opacity. And you can really see how I have like a really nice level of control and really make this look like a worn drawing on top of canvas, like an old drawing on top of canvas. Is this making sense to you guys? Is this working for you? Do you guys understand where I'm going with this? How are you guys feeling about this process? Again, you could do this with Maya software renderer or even with Arnold as long as you got this kind of effect out of it. That's all that really matters. So how are you feeling about the workflow here? Are you guys yes? No? Hello? Okay, good. All right, so let's push this a little bit farther, and I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to go to realism in a minute, assuming I'm going to relaunch Maya because it's being a pain in the butt. I don't know why like I said, next class is going to be really interesting if I can't get the rendering engine to work in Maya, but I guess I'll have to just restart the computer and hope for the best. We all have technical issues, by the way, I guess is what I'm saying. Everybody. All the time. Across the board. It's the nature of the beast. So now I have this kind of abstract thing. Can I do anything with this? Do I like this? Is this cool? I don't know. Let's put it under the other line work, and I immediately think that looks cooler, right? But we want to see this on top of the paper, so I could again switch my blending mode to multiply, and I could even adjust my opacity, get some kind of a cool, interesting painted effect back there. From here, I could adjust the levels or again make a layer mask, right? So if I wanted to make a layer mask, I could either use the original paper or, like I just demonstrated a minute ago, I could use this dry media brush with the layer mask. Watch this, invert that so it's like a black layer mask. But if I'm painting white down, then as I'm painting white down, then it's painting that back in through my layer mask. Maybe I want to go for 5 for 50% and then kind of have some fun here, painting back that painting. Let's turn up the opacity on the layer a little bit. But hopefully you understand what I'm doing here. I'm trying to get at this really nice organic grungy effect, and trying to make something that looks like it's hand drawn or hand painted. These custom brushes, by the way, they can be a little bit rendering intensive. So you can see it's taking my computer a little while to calculate this, but come on. But you're starting to see that come in, as you can see here. So, starting to look pretty cool, in my opinion. It's getting there, If you had an ambient occlusion layer, it would be perfect right now to take ambient occlusion, multiply the ambient occlusion on top of this. That would be a nice way to get your shapes and forms back as well. All right, how am I doing on time? All right. I want to relaunch Maya one more time. I'm really struggling with Maya today. I'm sorry. And I'm going to make one last attempt here at using Maya's renderer. Specifically, I want to try to go the opposite direction and make something very, very, very realistic. One of you guys, you have a tile floor. I think it's with the Hobbit project. So I want to go over a way to make that tile floor. Believe it or not, I'm still waiting for some of these brush updates because these custom brushes, again, in Photoshop can be rather intensive. So you can see it's sort of updating down here. But I'm getting this sort of really nice organic grungy effect. Feels very hand-painted. Feels very traditional. Or it's getting there anyway. But you could even use the other layers. As soon as Photoshop lets me stop painting, it's still updating. But you could also manipulate the other layers as well, right? So like I have kind of a dot matrix layer, for example. It's the same process. You switch the layer to multiply, you add a layer mask, and however you want to make that layer mask is up to you. So if you want to use that original paper as a layer mask, then that works really well. Or you can hand paint it yourself. Okay, finally. It's waking up. All right, good. So now let's do something a little different by hiding this layer. And now you can see that's the abstract layer underneath. And we're going to do maybe this dot matrix, shall we? Yeah, this dot matrix looks kind of cool. So again, don't be afraid of adjusting your levels. So crunch your levels if you want to, if you need to. Crush them, rather. And you can see this has a pretty pronounced effect. So if you want to crush your levels, that's maybe not a bad idea. And then again, switch to multiply. And now we have kind of the dot matrix on top. And then just like before, you can decide here if you want to hand paint your layer mask, but I really like to use the original paper as a starting place. So Control J for duplicate, Control Shift U for desaturate, but this is going to be a layer mask, so copy it. Control A for select all, Control C for copy, and then again, make a layer mask from it. So go back up to this dot matrix layer. Sorry, I'm not naming everything, but make a layer mask. Alt click, paste. And then let's look at it by clicking back onto the thumbnail, and you can kind of see what my results are right now. If you want to continue tweaking it from here, because maybe that's not worn away, I personally don't think that's worn away enough. Again, either crunch your levels. I think that's telling me that Maya is indeed installed, sir. Or not installed, but rather launched. So see, I'm crunching my levels here to kind of eat away. Like, don't forget also, before you crunch the levels, you might want to invert it and then crunch the levels. Yeah. See, so by inverting it and going the other way, again, this is just up to you. Like, what looks cool to you? You decide that. That's up to you. And then I can force the issue by, again, using some kind of dry brush. F5 is your brush settings. Oh boy, I gotta move on to the other thing. Is Maya launched? Please. Looks like it is. Okay, I'm gonna have to make the other thing. Okay, so really fast. Again, use a dry brush in this case, or really any kind of textured brush to really force the. So here's pastel. Here's a pastel. Make the brush large. And then use a large brush at, I don't know, 50% or 60% or something. Size, make this quite a bit larger. And then force this, right, by painting black or white into the layer mask. So make sure your layer mask is selected, and then you can, again, force the issue. See? Remember that the numbers are your intensity. So it's like 6 for 60%, you know, or 3 for 30%, or whatever. But see, I can kind of add and remove value at this point. If I hit the X button, I'm going to go to white, and that's going to allow me to do the opposite. It's going to allow me to paint away at it and rub away, dig away, dissolve, that line work. Right? And now I'm kind of getting some cool organic stuff going now. But that's the workflow. So hopefully that helps you guys. Now I'm going to switch gears now that Maya's launched, and I'm going to go the entirely opposite direction. And I'm going to try to make something very realistic with the remaining time I have, which isn't much. So bear with me. This is going to be a little bit of a ride. So here we go. Fast, right? I hope you guys are watching because this is going to be fast. So I've been using Substance to make very realistic stuff lately. Specifically, I've been using Alchemist. It's really an amazing software package. It's free. I highly recommend you download it and use it. It's not required, but that is how some of these things get created. So if I go to textures.com, you're going to see, especially in the scan materials and the PBR materials, that I have very, 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 very realistic stuff because this is all from scan data. But if I were to click on one of these things like wet mud, you're going to see that the first thing that pops up is a substance file. Unfortunately, a lot of these cost money, so it's not necessarily easy to find a free substance file. Okay? And it doesn't matter. If you can't download the substance file, we already have all these maps that we can get for free. So we can get our color map, our normal map, and our height and roughness map and so on, but it's up to, and ambient occlusion, but it's up to us how we want to plug these into the AI standard surface, right? But like if you don't know what you're doing and you're really struggling with this, then it might be a giant nightmare to get the normal map looking right against the color map, against the roughness map, and it might not necessarily look as nice as this, which is what we're after, right? So then I'm going to go to free because I don't want to spend any credits or money or whatever. And one of these free textures in here I noticed earlier was like a tile. Where was it? This one. That looked kind of similar to that Hobbit tile floor. What the heck? I was just there and then right here, free. The one that says free, tile floor. Yes. Medieval pavement floor. So I want to make this look exactly like this preview, and I want to do it with the least amount of effort, right? So I don't want to have to plug in all these maps, and it takes all day, and oh my God, and all the settings and everything. So if I download the free compiled material, which is a .sbsar, or a substance file, don't panic. This is where the magic comes in. I just want to show you guys how this works. So medieval pavement SBSAR, I'm putting it on my desktop. I should really put it in my project folder, but I'm out of time, so I'm just trying to make things fast. I go to poly modeling, I make a plane. This is going to be, and by the way, this is not even going to really have any geometry. I don't even think it's necessary to have geometry. It's just one single quad. I go into my hypershade. And in my hypershade, this is where the magic comes in, and this is where I really hope you guys are paying attention because, wow, this can really save you a lot of time, again. So I can import this substance file into my hypershade and convert it into an AI standard surface. That's the secret sauce. This is really cool. So if this doesn't work for you out of the gate, go to your Windows settings and preferences and plugin manager. And there is substance here in the plugins. So you do have to have this turned on. Scroll down. You should see, here it is, substance.mll. These have to be loaded. So make sure these are loaded. That's important. So if these aren't automatically loaded, they need to be loaded. All right, so once you've got that, then in your hypershade, go to File, go to Import, and now I'm going to import that tile. So it's on my desktop. It's going to be the SBSAR file. So that's what I'm looking for right now. Here it is. It's very top. The SBSAR. Now comes the cool part. So again, I hope you're paying attention. It appears as a node. This is not particularly fancy or interesting, and it's not my tile. So what do? You select the node. And once you select the node, you can scroll over to the attributes, scroll down to Workflow, Arnold, Create Shader Network. And watch, what it does is it takes the substance file, which is again an SBSAR file, and once I click it once, Maya's really thinking right now, it's going to explode that one node into a fairly complicated Arnold nodal network. And I'm letting Maya think right now because it's thinking. In case you're wondering, it does take a second. Don't like click it multiple times. Just click it once and let it do its thing because it does take a second to do this. But it's going to take this SBSAR node, assuming, yep, there it goes. And it's going to explode it, as you can see, magically into all these nodes. Ooh, lots of nodes. And once it's done, I have my perfect tile floor, all connected, all ready to go. The only thing I need to change now is maybe the tiling on my texture, 2D texture tiling node. So if I wanted to tile it, I could do that over here. And you can see by tiling it 4 and 4, for example, then I'm seeing the tiling happening on my preview. Let's go 2 and 2, but you get the idea. If you need to tile it, you can. It's not hard. And notice that the 2D texture node is connected to everything else, so it's fairly easy to spot which one it is. But now I have an AI standard surface, which clearly is, well, tile. This is my perfectly physically accurate tile floor. Put this on the plane, put a HDR in the sky dome, and render, and then that should end the demo. Let's see what happens. I can hit the 6 button, by the way, and we should hopefully see the tiling. It looks pretty nice. And now, very quickly, because I am officially out of time. Oh, come on, man. So now, Arnold, give me a sky dome. Wait, that's not fancy enough. Give me an HDR in the sky dome. So guys, if you want to go to Gumroad, for example, or just Google it, or heaven forbid, spend a couple dollars on these substance files, as much as I hate to say that, but yeah, you can spend like $5 or $10 and get a bunch of really amazing substance files. And I've just shown you how to bring them in, and then you get like a perfect material, whatever that is, like tile floor. It's perfect. And now I'll render, and this will be the end. So it's your choice. You can start with an AI standard surface preset like you've been doing, and you can plug in, you know, your normal map, and you can plug in your roughness map, and you can plug in your color map, and you can do it all that way. Or you can save yourself a lot of time. Download the substance file, unpack the substance file as an Arnold network, shader network, because basically the substance file is the same thing. It's a shader network. So all you've got to do is convert the substance shader network to Arnold, which I just showed you how to do a minute ago in the attributes. And now you have a perfect material that looks exactly the way it's supposed to, and you've just cut down on all that work. You don't have to connect all those maps and tweak all those settings, because guess what? Now I have like a perfect tile floor that looks exactly like it's supposed to, with minimal effort and very little tweaking. It looks exactly like it did in the preview online. So I've now gone over stylized rendering, and I've gone over like photoreal materials using Substance. Now I just downloaded a Substance file, an SBSAR file, but if you really wanted to, like, be daring about this, you could install Substance Painter or like Alchemist is what I've been using, and you can design these things for yourself, right? And they have a lot of presets, much like the AI standard surface presets, that if you wanted to make something unusual like this cliff rock or something, it would not be hard to do that. And so anything that you may be having trouble generating with the AI standard surface presets, this is another option. You're by no means required to do this, but it does give you a lot of flexibility, a lot of options, and really just a lot of power to create a variety of different really cool materials. It's like, here's marble. This one's really cool. Look at this. So here's my cliff rock. I can look at my 2D and 3D. I can actually see the texture over here. I can see the material over here. And oh my God, I can actually play with sliders and procedurally change things like the amount of pebble or the amount of mud or even how wet something is. It's an insane amount of power. You can then export this as an SBSAR file, bring it into Maya, import it into the Hypershade, and then of course convert it like I just showed you, and then now you have like this perfectly physically accurate material. Anyway, I know that was a lot. It's 3:20, so I've now kind of gone over stylized rendering using very basic shaders with the Maya software renderer, and now I've gone over using kind of substance files to automatically create perfectly physically accurate materials with a minimal amount of effort. So I guess I'm going to stop there because I'm out of time.